granddaughter would know. See, nobody would ever get the original recipe out of them people. You're lucky man if you can get some of the original, because everybody around here, man, that stuff like gold.
Mary did the best job of anybody that ever had it. Because you go in there and she would kind of heat the sauce a little bit.
Chick died with that recipe. No one got it. We used to take bread. At that time they was calling it light bread. We would take it and pour it in our plate, and we'd just get the bread soggy and we would eat it. See, the hot sauce that they have now is just like water. But at that time, his hot sauce, barbecue sauce, was thick. It was thick. You could sop it like you do syrup.
If you analyze what the sauce was and realize when he started was during the Depression, and you think about white people had a tough time, black people, you can't even start to imagine what kind of time they must have had. So, it's basically water, vinegar, everything's cheap, salt, red pepper is what gives it the flavor that it's got. Now, I don't have the recipe, but I know what's in it. And I used to kind of sneak watch what they had in the bottles and the cans that they threw away. The secret ingredient that really gives it that unique flavor, it gives it, well, if you can take it and put it in a little vinegar or something, you can sense the flavor that's unique to chicken comas barbecue. Not that there's not other people that have used it. I mean, you'll find it in other barbecue sauces also. Everything his was made with had to be cheap. I mean, that's pretty much a given. Even the plate, the papyrus plate, was the cheapest plate you could buy. I mean, it's just light bread, meat, and that sauce. That was it. Had an old hickory stick that was just polished like it was wax, and he would wrap like an old sheet or pillowcase or something around it, and he'd drop that down in his sauce and drizzle it around on the meat. Now, I know you know about the meat, and I was on a papyrus plate. Yeah. Now, what he would do, he had an old cutting block back there, and he would stand there and slice this stuff and put it into a papyrus plate, and then he would reach over to his hickory stick down in the slop jar full of sauce and drizzle this sauce, just float the meat in it. It's called a sopping sauce. I've eaten that stuff virtually all my life. I'm 66, so that means I've been eating it for about 63 years.
I don't know if he was, but he could have been a multi-millionaire if he had his business going right. I don't know. When he died, I don't know what he had, but he could have been if he had run it right financially, he could have been a multi-millionaire because he sold the barbecue.
Well, Chick really didn't know how. He was just a big man.
Right.
In this community, black man in this community, he didn't know anything about the real business. He didn't know.
And I remember when he used to sell Boston butts, barbecue, and we used to be able to buy that Boston butts at that time had skins on it. And we used to go down there and buy a dime worth of skins and stuff, and you would be full.
He sold just as many skins as he did barbecue. And they would come in there and I want a plate of skin. And they was a great big old skin. But you know how he cooks them? In a great big old black wash pot.
And you get a plate of skin, so very cheap, because all you were getting was the skin. And Anderson would pull that skin off of that meat, get a whole big plate of skins, and he put the hot sauce on it and some bread, and you go crazy eating that stuff. You're making me hungry now, just talking about it now.
And we would have the skin and we would dip it in the hot sauce. They was so good.
We used to get them skins, though. See, Boston butts now don't have skins on them. But when he used to cook that meat, we used to go in there and give him a dime and get a plate of skin, put that hot sauce on it. Good.
Like I said, most of the time he had that barbecue pit in the backyard. There were all kind of animals to him. He would barbecue it.
Get them goats fat on chicken feed, take them around there, make me a good sale, $1.50. And I'd go back there later and pay him 50 cents for a big old pile of barbecue. I didn't care if it was goat, hog, or what. Whatever he cooked, he knew how to cook it. And it was real good.
I remember he had a cow, and he killed the cow. They cleaned the cow, and they cut the cow up, and he barbecued. He barbecued the whole cow. I never seen that.
And I think people come out there with 10 and 12 plates of barbecue stacked up like this. He put the barbecue in a cardboard tray, and then he put them in brown bags and put that sauce on them. Then he stacked them up. People come and get that barbecue, and you can smell it. Half a mile away from before you got to the restaurant, you can smell that barbecue cooking.
And one thing I really like about this whole thing, you go in there and get a plate to go, and I always put it in an old sack. And when you get where you're going, it'd be run all in the sack and everything else. and you'd have to take a sack, pour it back in your plate. That's one thing that I really remember well. And I understand back when Chicken was there, and when he was living, the gamblers would call him every now and then and say, I need 50 plates. They'd be gambling somewhere, 100 plates, something like that. He'd fix it up and they'd come get it.
But when he would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and he would call us lazy because we would sleep till 8. We was lazy to get up. He wanted to get up at 4 o'clock, but see, he went to bed early. And he'd get up early. He had to go get his meat and stuff about 12 o'clock when people get off for lunch. He had barbecue bread. He had to go get that meat every day because there wasn't a refrigerator in there. Because he used to have the pork, long boneless butts, and ribs. Ribs got too expensive. He couldn't afford to buy the ribs.
Well, he sold it too cheap. But back then, heck, you could buy, they'd sell you whole barbecue chicken for $1. And the colonial bread, had a big rack of bread. Breadmen came every day. And the bread was always as fresh and soft.
He opened early, he stayed about dark. Then on Saturday he stayed a little later. But he had a booming business, so he had to have good food.
Sell his meat, cut it, boy, he used to slice it so pretty, You used to just stand there and look, and people they go in there and they just stand and look at him cut the meat.
He cooked me some chickens one time. Chicken wasn't something he cooked. And I took about 6 chickens around there, and he wrapped them in this fat. He cooked them for me, and they were great. I mean, they were really good.
I even remember in high school, some of the clubs would haze you. And the hazing was you had to drink a cup of chicken coma sauce.
And that was part of the hazing ritual?
Yeah, if you could drink that, then you in.
We lived right behind him. My mother and stepdaddy owned a place called the Weeping Willow. It was a dive nightclub type thing. Had slot machines and all that stuff in it, Moonshine, they used to sell a little moonshine on the side, and we could have got chicken comas by just going through our backyard, through the woods.
The numbers was heavy, and cause they Chick lived next door to the barbecue stand, and they used to bring out to the restaurant every morning and sit at one of those tables, and she sit down and write numbers. And you go and you say, I want to play 283. She'll write it down, and he was a heavy number player there. We used to call it hitting the bug, but he always hit the number. Well, he never had no money, and you give her $1. That number come out, and you got 521. I think they were paying like $500 for $1, something like that. Every evening just before dark, you will hear what the number was that day.
And Chicken I think he was more or less a pickup man. He would take people's numbers and their nickels and dimes and write their names down, and he'd bring it down to the pawn shop where we would collect it, and we would pay out to people who struck the bug or hit the lottery, so to speak.
And so what they did, they would get the first edition of the paper, the 3 middle numbers of the bond sales. And like they'd sell 1,420,500. Well, that 420, the 3 middle digits there was the number that day, see. And I won $7 off of it. It's a penny. You play a penny, you get $7.
Chick used to hit for big money. He used to hit the number for big money.
And that house would go in, his wife, named Lula Bell. It had a big rug, and it was like a lion's face. It was just spread around, and they had so much of antique, pretty furniture in there. In a real rich house. She was a very clean person, tall, slender lady.
We would love to see their mother, Miss Lula Bell. We call her Miss Lula Bell Coleman. And she would wear those great, big, beautiful hats with the real wide brim, She loved her hats, and very seldom you would see her. She would be in the house. She never came in the cafe. She was a dressing lady. She really did wear her clothes.
Now, he thought the sun rise and set in her. He used to say all the time, she gonna be a genius, she gonna be a and all she had to do was go and say, Papa, I want this. He was gonna get it.
But he was Papa too. He was her granddad.
He's my granddad. And we was with him until he died. I would be down there, because my mama used to be there sometime. And my dad was in there. He was cutting the meat and fixing the meat, because Chick would be at the pit most of the time.
The poem was about how my papa took care of everything for us. He was our guardian. It says, "Fix it, Papa." Next door, Robert Lee, the deputy sheriff, again had beaten Doll, his wife, my nursemaid, who fried my bacon just right and took me to pick blackberries in the woods. Papa, your loaded shotgun was where a 5-year-old could reach it, on the floor, between the wall and the cherry oak headboard you carved. So I dragged it out by the trigger and snuggled it under my arm and pulled it past the rocking chair that you'd made for me, and out the door and down the 10 new wooden steps you'd put up. I bounced the butt until I reached the moist backyard, and I strained with it past my bike that, after your paint job, shined red even in the shade of the giant mulberry tree. At first you didn't see me as you loomed under the wooden shelter behind Chicken Comer's, where you barbecued boneless pork butts over a deep pit, stirred up your special sauce, and got ready for your customers. I grunted as I lifted the shotgun to you, Papa, shoot Bobby Lee, and I repeated Doll's cry, I'm tired of his damn shit. You snatched up the shotgun. When I saw it 2 days later, it was locked behind the glass door of the wooden case you'd built high on the wall over the mantel. The bullets were boxed and at the back of the top shelf of the china cabinet. That same day, Bobby Lee drove off with his suitcase, and Doll made me a blackberry pie.
Yeah, 'cause Mama died 66 and he died 2 years later.
68.
He died in 68. Cause Chick didn't, I guess, sick. He wasn't down. He just had a heart attack and died. He wasn't sick, you know. Somebody had to run it for him. He died coming from going to the meat house to get his meat for that day, and he had a heart attack in the car where the man carried him to get his meat. And he was 80-some years, and he was walking, and he would get people to carry him to get his meat, you know.
That's how he made his living, and of course his family continued it on after Chick's death. I went to Chick's funeral when he died. I've been to a governor's funeral, didn't have that many people there. There was that many people. He was that well thought of in the community.
I even remember he was up in his 70s when he confessed Christ. He was an old man when he confessed Christ. You did, but he did confess it before he died. That's a good thing. That's one good thing about it.
Many, many people attended his funeral. He was definitely a famous man and very well liked by all people. Chicken Comer was a humble man. He certainly made good money selling barbecue, but he was generous with it and helped lots of people who needed a little help to get by or played a good barbecue when they were hungry. He raised many children as his own, caring for them in every way because he cared about all people and was an unselfish person through and through. A girl named Burdell had moved from Sylvania, Georgia, and Chick had raised her just like his own daughter. Even before Chick died, he told her that he wanted her to carry on the barbecue business after he was gone. After 1968, Burdell did just that. From the same block building, Burdell made and sold the pork meat and spicy sauce for many years after Chicken died. She made the sauce as close as she could to the way he made it, but it was a little different. Some people speculate that she didn't put pickle juice in the sauce, or she didn't cook it for 5 minutes after the ingredients were well mixed. Chick never measured anything, so the way to make the sauce was all in his head. Therefore, it wasn't an easy task to try and duplicate the original sauce. Burdell tried her best, though. Just after Chick died, his granddaughter, Maud Shepard, told Burdell that if she wanted to continue using the name Chicken Comer's Barbecue on the restaurant, she would have to pay a royalty for using the name. Burdell immediately changed the name to Cromwell's Barbecue. It stayed that way from 1968 until the early 80s, when Burdell's health started to fail. My mom and dad still lived in Phenix City during those years. I remember coming to visit them and going to the same place for Chicken Comer's Barbecue. I didn't even care about the name being Cromwell's. It was still Chicken Comer's Barbecue to me.
Dawn, now she was a good-hearted person.
Very liberal.
Yeah, and she would give you anything, almost the clothes off her back. It was necessary you asked her for anything.
She was there supportive, very supportive of him. Our cousin, Ghana Lee, brought her here from Swainsboro, Georgia. And
she started working for Chick.
Yes, she was already working for him. And when he died, she just took the business and carried it on. That's the way that was. Wasn't no turnover to her at all.
And when Doll moved to Phenix City, then she started working for him. She moved there like in the early 50s, and she was married to this guy named Cromwell.
And she was a good friend until, I found out that she had passed.
I met her through my husband at the time. He was my fiance then. He took me over there. I met her. She was good people. Started working for her, and she paid for my wedding.
Well, I met Cromwell back in 63. Her and I were working for Chicken Coma at the time. Chicken Coma passed, and so her and I started, when I first, before he passed, dog got married to Cromwell. So Chick passed. After he passed, dog and I started working together. Cromwell, he used to come, he had another job, but he just came in to help out. But we were like one big happy family. Well, I did most of everything it was to do, like cook, sew, wait tables, and just, like I said, one big happy family it was.
Mother, father, 7 days a week, we get up, we out there. Like I said, throughout the summer, all of us had to work, every day. So we went to chop wood, and my mama, she was kind. Everybody liked her, everybody ever met her. I don't never remember everybody handing me anything she could do, the people she did. And like every day, we would just have a crowd. People come from all over, Alaska, anywhere, do the nice thing when it lasts, you know what I'm saying?
I answered the phone, Cromwell's barbecue. Cromwell's barbecue. I got the wrong number. Hung up, called back, the same number. And she said, well, tell them it's Chicken Coma. They didn't know what you're talking. I said, it's Chicken Coma. I want to put in an order.
People were writing checks for the food, but then they were writing to Chick Comer's, but she couldn't cash it because, she had Cromwell's ID.
Just that name, where the sauce go, it didn't matter. But the name Chicken Comer, that what stands out. The old man Chicken Comer.
I grew up there. My house is maybe from here to that parking lot to the restaurant. And when I started there, Birdell had the place, her and her husband. And Mary was working there also. So it was me and Mary. It was great. I enjoyed the whole 9 yards of it.
It was tons of people in there, and it was a lot of fun. So I worked with Miss Cromwell and the Mr. Chicken,
right?
Mr. Comer. They all were nice people to work for. They really were. I've never worked for any better people than them.
We would, wait on tables, cut up meat, joke around, because it was a fun place to work. It was good days, though. Had a lot of fun. Good times over there. A lot of hard work.
I worked there in evening time when I got off from my job.